Today we have Patrick Sullivan here. He's a fifth year Master's Engineering design student. Fifth year because he did a year in industry. He in his spare time he likes to play rugby, and also he's the editor for the student-led Bristol University newspaper, The Epigram. Is there anything you'd like to add to that, Patrick? Or
well, I think you pretty much covered it there, Derek. Yeah, I mean, as well at university, you have a lot of chance to do sort of campaigning, and I think sort of men's mental health is a key issue I'm quite keen on, especially within engineering. And there's a lot to go into there, and just making sure you live a good life while at university as well.
All right, cool. So let's just get straight into this. So I'm just going to take you back to when you were 16, 17, 18 years of age, and you were deciding your A-levels. What subjects did you choose, and why did you choose them?
So the A-levels I did at AS, so year 12, I did maths, further maths, physics, product design, and then English literature and language. So that was one A-level, the English. And I actually dropped the product design and kept on the English. So I did 4 A2 levels. And the reason I did that was because I had an Arkwright scholarship at the age of 15. That was really good. I was the first person at my school to get that. They nominated someone every year, and my design teacher put me forward for that. And that gave me a real insight into engineering, and a company sponsored me called the TTP Group. And obviously then I could really see that for an engineering degree, at that point for an engineering career, I needed my maths and my physics. I actually really loved maths. Maths at the time was my favourite subject. So I did the further maths. It made sense. And product design again was one of my favourite subjects. I wanted to do those 4 all the way through. I was actually at a state school that couldn't offer those 4 subjects.
Which one couldn't they offer?
So it was just a timetabling, so I couldn't do further maths and physics.
Okay.
Further maths, physics and product design, that was the 3 that were kind of clashing. Whereas at other schools you could have a little bit more freedom with the timetabling, I think. Smaller groups. But what happened was, because I got this Arkwright scholarship and the school were quite proud of that, they wiggled round. So on my first day of sixth form, I got asked, what A-level do you want to do instead of product design? Because it was seen as the sort of non-essential one. And I was a bit sort of taken aback because I had not considered anything other than those 4. I hadn't considered them at all. And in my year 11, I started to enjoy English a little bit more, just because my teacher was really good, Mr. Anderson. He ended up being my mentor for year 12 and 13. And I literally was like, straight away, I'll do English. I was put so much on the spot by my head of sixth form. And he said, what English? Because apparently he could do English language and literature. There were 2 different things.
Yeah.
And I was like, whatever Mr. Anderson teaches, and that was it.
When you were doing A levels, it's actually funny because you're doing really technical, engineering based, STEM based, subjects, and then you chose English as well.
Yeah.
So you chose it because the teacher was really nice.
Yeah, literally the teacher was really good. Literally ended up being a kind of life icon. He was such a good role model, and he encouraged me to pursue a degree in engineering when I was I really enjoy this writing thing. And he was like, oh, don't do it, engineering's a really good degree.
What was the reasons he gave, even though he was an English teacher? What was the reason he gave?
So the reason he gave was it was actually really good advice. He said, take the engineering degree, and while you're at university, explore the writing. So I've been involved in quite a bit of drama while I've been here in terms of writing for theatre. Not as much as a lot of people. He gave me the advice that I could take the engineering degree, come to the amazing university and try a load of things, including writing. So obviously newspaper, a load of writing experience that I've done, some of the amateur theatre stuff. I've still managed to do it and enjoy it.
This is a really interesting concept here. This is a theme that I want to actually put forward in this series of podcasts. You were actually quite lucky in the fact that you got the teacher, the teacher to point you in that direction. Where doing a STEM subject, it doesn't necessarily mean you're doing engineering, for example. It doesn't necessarily mean you're like bound to that. There's other things, other opportunities that you can still go towards, and actually doing engineering may in fact actually help you towards that,
and vice versa. I had an interview for the Royal Academy of Engineering recently, and I always thought it would be to my detriment that I did English, that I have done epigram and theatre and whatnot. But more and more, the engineering world requires good communication, it requires good writing, and it requires personalities, because it needs to be more present in everyday culture. And everyone sees culture as being the arts, but Tesla is such a big part of popular culture now. Like, everyone knows what a Tesla is. It's an electric car. But did you know that BMW also do quite a good range of electric cars? No, because it's not quite part of the culture. And that marriage is really interesting. It's one of the things that has allowed me to enjoy my degree, is that I haven't lost that in my life. I've not sold my life to a computer, or lab coat, and it's been a really joy of my university time.
One of the reasons that I think we became good friends was because I was really impressed by all the things that you were doing, as well as engineering design. All the different things. And like you got into that mindset and that mentality of just learning new skills and throwing yourself out there into different things at a really young age. I only got into that mindset towards nearer the end of my university career. But let's take a step back and then go into some of the questions that I've prepared here. Back to the engineering design degree itself. How come it's one of the more niche degrees? In fact, I didn't even hear about it until basically one of your mates who also does engineering design told me about it. What made you choose? Like, what exactly? How do you know you were going to choose that as opposed to the other engineers, for example, mechanical or aerospace? Yeah,
so I applied for 5 degree courses via UCAS. Engineering design was one of them. 3 were mechanical engineering courses, and the final one was general engineering. And at the time, when you're 17, 18, I knew I wanted to do engineering. I'd gone to all the open days, and mechanical seemed the most general. But I came through engineering from a product design route. So I did have a look at product design engineering courses. Loughborough has a really good one. And they found that the sort of thing you balance when you look at those courses was that kind of graphical design, is known as industrial design in industry, versus like sort of more general systems engineering, and like this idea of big projects and integrating stuff and doing a little bit of everything. And engineering designer here at Bristol is very much that latter option. And there's one at design engineering at Imperial is very drawing based and artsy. They do it at the Royal College of Art. And if you love sketching, that's the course for you. But one of the best things I found when I came to the open day here at Bristol was when I looked at mechanical engineering. Next door to it was engineering design on the stands, and there were, again, really passionate, enthusiastic students who were talking about engineering disciplines across the range, and you get the opportunity to specialise after first year. So you do a really general technical engineering foundation, and then you specialise, and then every year you do these big wild design projects. And that really appealed to me as someone who was good at maths and physics, as someone who enjoyed product design, and then who's someone who, sort of like you said earlier, wanted to throw themselves into all sorts of skills. This course offers that. And I ended up specialising in aerospace when I applied for 3 mechanical courses, which gives you an idea of how many more options you get at the later stage.
The options scenario is very true. Just to add a bit of context, I do aerospace engineering, and so for us, the modules that we have in the first and second year is the exact same modules that mechanical engineers take. And towards third year and fourth year, we get to specialise more. But I guess the differences for engineering design would be the amount of choice that you can get, which I was really surprised by when I was talking to Patrick earlier. Engineering design, you can actually there's a lot of choice in terms of you don't have to pick. You can describe it more. You don't even have to pick engineering-based modules.
True. Yeah. So computer science they include in a lot of the engineering modules, but you have your 120 credit units to play around with. And that concept is kind of weird coming from a school background, but you have choices that are kind of limited. But then once you choose your specialism, so for me aerospace, I have to choose 50 credit points worth of aerospace. Then I have 40 credit points in my design project, which is a part of a group. It's 2 years long, and it's really, really brilliant at spanning the range. And I actually have 20 credits, which I can either put back into engineering, pick more engineering units, or as I decided to do, I picked 2 cinema units in my last 2 years. And it comes about, it takes your time. So you have your year in industry, and after that, you know whether you really want to be a hardcore technical engineer or whether you want to be a bit more broad range of skills, communication skills. And so I came back into it saying I wanted to do an essay-based subject, and I wasn't limited to engineering units. So I got to choose one from, in this case, modern languages.
Actually, looking at you now, this makes perfect sense. The fact that you did engineering design, and the fact that you had an interest for English language, English literature. This seems like a really good choice for you. Looking from the outside. There's
a reason they put me on the open day stand. Like, this is different types of engineering will appeal to different students, and the best thing about engineering teams is when you have a group of people who all have different personalities and different disciplines. That's when you get the best product, because it comes from a load of different brains, and that's why I'm really grateful to be on the course, because everyone specialises and does lots of different types of units. Whereas I feel on the more specific streams, you'll find your people, and you'll find people who love what you love, but it's very much more of a culture of yes, 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 rather than a kind of dialogue of yes, no, maybe, okay, let's compromise, which I really love. Yeah.
Interesting. I guess for engineering design would be a lot more just different people, and then you have to work with different people. And then like when you have those different types of people in a team, it's a lot of times better rather than having just a same mindset and same group of people.
Yeah, the design project's a really good example of that. So my design project I'm working with 3 others on is all about airport systems, and we've narrowed down to looking at moving luggage. So usually checking luggage at the airport, we're looking at moving that to either like on demand, like Uber pickup, or like stalls that are like placed in locations where lots of people are travelling from, as in their hometown in the city of Bristol. But then also another project this year going on is looking at wind turbine installation. So that's something that is more of a traditional aerospace project, but also got civil elements. So they've got aerospace and civil specialists working on it together. It can be as technical and as non-technical as you'd like, but at the heart of it is this concept of multidisciplinary. And especially as a 17-year-old going into the world of engineering, I didn't understand what mechanical meant, and I didn't understand the disciplines. And now I have quite a good understanding of multiple disciplines.
Did you ever worry, when you were 16 or 17, if I chose this like degree, when you were gonna make the degree choice and the university choice of engineering design, do you ever worry that it's one of those, this is like so niche that will I be like employable with this degree? I've never heard of this.
Yeah, degree. I think here at Bristol it's not been so much of a problem because the reputation of the course has become something else. Like it was number one in the country on most degree tables in the last couple of years, and it gets categorised in general engineering alongside Cambridge and Oxford. So therefore, those fears were quelled with a quick check of the tables.
I see.
Bristol itself is an employable university as well. You can just double check. I say on the wider branches, I think when I looked at product design engineering at Loughborough, I worried that I wouldn't be technically proficient. But I think it's kind of one of those boring things to look at, but what institutions kind of accredit courses. So there'll be chartered institutions, and you can see on a course what it's accredited by, but engineering design is accredited by 9 different institutions. Most courses are accredited by 1 or 2. Mechanicals will always be accredited by IMechE, aerospace, the Aeronautical Society. But as soon as you see an accreditation, you have the trust that this course is built for employability.
Yeah, there's like a stamp of approval from a third party source. So if you guys are actually looking for different courses, whether it be anything aerospace, mechanical, it might be worth a quick check online to see if it's accredited. I know when I personally was going to do aerospace, I originally wanted to go to Imperial. Unfortunately, I didn't get the interview, but at that time, I remember one of the lecturers there saying in one of the interview events that the course was not at that time. It probably is, and this was 4 years ago. At that time, it wasn't accredited, but it was on its way to be accredited.
That's probably red flags going in it, really. Like, they're telling you what you want to get on the degree.
To be honest, like, back then I had no idea what the hell that meant. But, now I have more of an idea of what that actually means. But yeah, that's, it's important. It's important. So what would you say, how important is, university selection, in terms of, so you said you did look at the QS table and the rankings. Can you describe more about that, and how important did you hold? For me personally, I held the rankings very important, because remember, so I'm from Ireland. In Ireland, I only have to pay $3,000 a year to go to one of the Northern Irish universities, but I decided to go to a better university, Bristol. But even though I had to pay 3 times as much, £9,000 a year. So for me, you could say that it held a really high importance, picking a university that's just better in many regards. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I agree. Especially if you're an aspirational teenager, you want to be the best, and you're constantly in competition with everyone around you. And that's how I felt. I felt if I'd got my best place, then it would be the best path. So I applied for Cambridge. I didn't get an interview there. I actually wasn't disappointed about that. I didn't really fancy it, a general course, even though engineering design is classified as that. It felt more constructed at the same time. Year in industry was a big thing as well. But actually, I remember visiting friends at Oxford University, which ranks lower for engineering, but obviously very similar to Cambridge. I wish I applied for that. You can only apply for one Oxbridge. I wish I applied for Oxford, not Cambridge, purely because I was pushing myself for competitive unis. But actually, all of the top 10, 15 for engineering will give you a very good education, and there'll be slight differences which you might respond well to. But I remember going to the Oxford environment and really enjoying the colleges, talk to an engineer, and it sounded like a better course for me than the Cambridge one. So that was a regret. I mean, Bristol ranked high, and the engineering design course really suits me, so I'm really happy with my choice. But I look back and I do wonder if, because I was focused, I was top 10 only. I think the lowest ranking one I picked was Nottingham, at the time was about 8th. But actually, the more I've known engineers from a wide range, so I know a few from Swansea University who have had brilliant education, brilliant placements, and a great time by the seaside. I think looking at the specifics of the course, the choices you have, and that NSS feedback for kind of experience and satisfaction is a more holistic way of looking at it. And the best thing to do is go on an open day. I think that was the seller for me at Bristol. When I came here and I met someone from engineering design. That was the selling point for me, because as you said, I feel right for the course, and I met that person, and I felt like they were more like me than some of the other engineers I met.
So I know Patrick has done a placement year. I think it's really interesting. So he's in his 5th year now. God damn.
Yeah, I'm an old boy.
He's an old man. How did you know that you wanted to do a placement year when you first joined that degree?
Yeah, so it's probably one of the best things that happened to me in terms of engineering was as I mentioned it earlier, the Arkwright Scholarship. It gave me 3 weeks of paid placement experience.
My brother's on that, by the way.
Oh, yeah. Brilliant. Honestly, so good for him. I've mentored a couple of teenagers on it. I meant to sign up this year, but DBS is a pain in the butt. So there's loads of steps to get to help out with it. But it is a really good scheme, and I got 3 paid weeks of placement and a lot of interaction with actual engineers. And it is so different studying engineering to working in engineering. You kind of need to, I remember that time at TTP, my supervisor was like, I use about 2% of my degree, but I needed to know that 2%, and I didn't know which 2% I'd need to know. And it all varies for people. That was obviously it was a off the cuff figure that he pulls out for that funny quote. But it did stick with me at the age of 17. I need to know what the workplace is like. And it is just engineering design pushes it hard. It was a course I wanted to do more for the design projects than anything. And after my first year, we had 12-week placement. The interviews were all arranged at university. I ended up at a company called Zodiac CTK. I went back there for my year placement. And it was really, I mean, I loved it. I was working on aircraft seating. I got paid. I had a nice routine. And after second year, I found them really, really tough at university. I failed a few things. I had to resit exams. I got far too distracted by other projects.
I feel like this is good for you to say it, because you seem really switched on, like from a really young age. Like, and I think some of the listeners might be alienated by that, because I know I wasn't really that switched on. But yeah, it's not like Patrick is like a genius, and he's always
far from it. Far from it.
Yeah. I mean, there are some geniuses in our degree, to be fair.
Yeah.
But hearing all this, we want to be as relatable as possible. So we do go through some hard times as well. So
definitely. Academically, like even during A levels, like I remember failing a mock further maths exam because probably I was getting too distracted by a couple of other things outside of the course. Not going to go into them. You all know what they are.
Girls,
a little bit, and starting to get into like friendships and socialising, and as soon as you get that 18 ID, you're into a whole new world
on the drink.
And my teacher was really good. She put me in a lunchtime class, and that was really important to bring me back into gear. You don't quite get that at university as much, especially on a big course. Engineering design is really good because it's a smaller course, but I had units where there were hundreds of people, and so you can get lost in that. And when you've got other distractions, it's really easy to steer off that. And academically, you again are put into a pool of people who are all really, really strong. So suddenly you're going to have to fight to get towards the top, and fight just to survive in the middle. Yeah, sure. And you feel always like you're drifting off.
Yeah, I think this is an interesting concept, like point of view phenomena that you see when you go into a good university. Really,
it's like big fish, small pool, and then big pond, small fish, isn't it?
Exactly, and then it's like because you're probably coming from. Being top of class in your small school, and it's just when you first realize this, it can be a big knock-on effect to your ego.
Yeah,
but you kind of have to deal with it.
And support network as well. Like if you, as I said, I failed that mock, and my teacher was hot on me. My friends were like, "Patrick, what the hell, man?" They're expecting you're comparing 90%, 80%, maybe 70%, but suddenly at university, I failed stuff. Nobody knew. Nobody really knew. So suddenly you kind of just fading into the background. It's quite scary. So I think the way to get over that is to just engage with your staff here, engage with the subject. And going back, really big tangent, but for me, my placement year put me back on the path to a good degree grade. It really did, because suddenly I had a supervisor. I had a set time where I needed to be in the office. I had a support network of engineers who were very inspirational, really, really good to work with, and who taught me a lot firsthand. Whereas at university, as I say, you can kind of fade into the background.
That's really awesome.
You can sort of let yourself down. It's all on you to push and push and push. But having some work experience is real first-hand experience that makes you a better engineer, so that when you come back for university, you feel more able to follow up these questions. You have a good grounding. And that's why I had obviously the experience pre-university, 3 weeks at TTP, and I'd advise that for everyone, because then at least it's hard to get.
Again what TTP was?
So TTP was a company that sponsored me. Okay. And they gave me 3 weeks paid work experience. It's hard to get paid work experience pre-18, but certainly if you have a firm somewhere near you, sending an email and saying, "Can I come in for a week and shadow an engineer?" will give you good confidence that you know what engineering is when these questions start coming up. Because it's really theoretical, isn't it? The lectures we have, they're drawing on blackboards and whiteboards, and it's hard to relate that to real world examples. Yeah,
it's very different. Following on from your comment that you mentioned, what you learn in engineering in your degree is very different to what you actually do in work, and it's actually quite important to try and get some experience. Like when you're 15, 16, just shadowing. To be honest, like it can be really boring because a lot of the time you're just going to be sitting there behind the engineer, just like looking at what he's doing, and you know nothing he does will make any sense, and you're not going to have really because if you don't understand the concept, you're not going to really know what he's doing, and that's going to be just boring. But it's very important to get that kind of experience because then that provides context as you grow and mature throughout your degree. You finally, you know, things just start clicking. And so, yeah, as Patrick was mentioned, I think it's really important to get some experience. But I don't know about a year though. I feel like that's just...
a year. It was a long time, and I came back to. So I was living in South Wales. I came back to Bristol a lot, like quite a few weekends, because you do miss the student lifestyle. You forget that I was 21 for most of my year. You forget you're 21 sometimes because I was working with like 40-year-olds.
Yeah.
You know, completely people with families and stuff. And you can't exactly say like, you know, oh, I'm doing this at the weekend. Do you want to join? Suddenly, your best friends are like, yeah, you know, a range of 30 to 50, 60-year-old men and women who all have, you know, developed serious adult lives. It's very
this is a really interesting point. I think our listeners can get a lot of value from this. So you know, when you exit out of your school stage, I think you know it'd be a really good idea to actually try and get a wide variety of friends. People who are really older, you know, a lot older than you, people who are, you know, in their 20s. And just try to like increase your network. You know, the university is a great place to do that. I know, like for myself, like I didn't interact with my lecturers, talk to my lecturers, or do even PhD students or anything like that. In my first or second year, it was only later on I realized, you know, this is a really good, valuable thing to do because it allows you to get insight and allows you to get knowledge that you may or may not end up using, but it's like it's just good, you know. And it's good to cultivate that social skill, especially you know if you're in one of the more technical subjects like engineering, where these communication and leadership skills are really valuable because you find a lot of people. This is a common theme. You know, they might be very technical, they might be very, very smart in grasping some theoretical knowledge, but in terms of social skills, they have very poor social skills. And you know, actually, one of our listeners, or not one of my listeners, my brother is actually has asked me to ask someone this question here: is there actually any way to improve my leadership skills and communication skills? Let's start with the university in the university scenario, and then let's also talk about like a school scenario as well.
So like leadership is always a funny concept. It kind of gets thrown about and thrust on people. For me, it's just about putting yourself out there, working hard, and trying to create situations for yourself and see, obviously others will follow, but there is leadership in terms of independent work, in terms of leading yourself. And that, for me, putting your front foot forward, because communication, that's really tangible as a skill. Leadership is not. So communication skill is working in teams, finding any project that you're interested in, and then, you know, communicating it outwardly and inwardly. That's really tangible, and that's just practicing that. But leadership is less tangible. I think it is just about stepping out and doing something slightly different. So in university, if you're an engineer and you're acing your course, great, bravo, but what else are you doing? What's different? What's going to set you apart? That is leadership skills. If you can step out and lead a project, or if you find a sports team and gravitate towards a leadership position purely through commitment and hard work, that will happen. And putting yourself into projects where you will end up in a leadership position because you've created them is the easiest way to improve leadership skills. That's quite easy at university. At school, it can be quite hard because it's quite structured day. And so for me, activities, sports, extracurricular stuff are the best ways to do that. And then also, organising something, anything, an event for engineers or people who are interested in engineering at your school to go to a company. You can organise that for a few emails, but that demonstrates a desire to lead, which at the age of 16, 17 is a huge step. It's not normal. So that would be I think the answer to that question.
I think for me, if I was to answer this question for my brother or anyone else who's really curious about this, it would be to try and like tell yourself, okay, this is something that I do want to actually improve in my communication skills and also my leadership skills. And the best way to do it is by trial and error. You got to like just get into like just try and get it into just those positions. Sometimes you just opportunities, especially in university. I know it's not like that in the school, but opportunity comes along a lot in university, and it can be just through simple things, like an email. Like you get so many emails in uni, and most of the time I didn't even, back in first and second year, I didn't even read it. I just deleted it because like I can't be asked. But if you actually take a bit of time and actually read it, and maybe sign up for some of these things, sign up for some societies. Just when a position comes available, like not having your knee-jerk reaction to be saying no, I don't have time for that, but really thinking about what, this might seem like a good opportunity. I might just have a try and just not being afraid to just throw yourself out in there. It's such a good mindset to have, and to be able to like try and cultivate these the skills. And as Patrick was mentioning earlier, you can't ace your degree. You can get like top of the class, top of the cohort, and get a first. But a lot of the times, companies look for different things. Like through my experience, like I found that getting a first or 2-1, it doesn't really matter that much, as long as you have one of those two things. And then once you have that, it's like, what else do you have going for you? Are you part of any society? Have you done like a cool project outside of university and things like that? That actually really, these are the things that employers are really looking for.
I think it echoes the personal statement as well. Like a lot of you might be at the point where you're starting writing your personal statement, and when you start writing it, you've still got loads of time. There's still a few months before you end up submitting. If your school are doing anything right, if you're at that point where you're like, I'm about to submit and I haven't started, you need to talk to your school because they're doing something wrong, right? Okay, you need time, because if you start writing it and you see, you think I haven't got that much to write. I'm doing well in my grades, but I haven't got that much to write. That is your first point for self-reflection and go, okay, I need to actually seek opportunities, make the most of opportunities, and then if you are looking to improve leadership skills, create opportunities. And that's a really good point. At 16, 17, that happens, and then you have the same kind of crisis at university, like, am I creating enough opportunity? Am I making the most? Because you think about employment, but it happens at personal statement level. Like, and I think it's important not just to whack down anything. It's actually at that point when you're starting, like, well, what would I like to see on this piece of paper? What would I like to fill my personal statement with? And then following those opportunities up there. And if you don't think they exist, as I say, create them or ask the right questions. Yeah. Asking questions, is it possible for me to do something like this? And if you ask enough people, hopefully someone will have a positive answer.
Yeah. I think that was a good place to end this podcast. I think there's a lot of value. Hopefully there was a lot of value being transferred onto you guys listening.